All right. Hello and welcome to Raising Anchor, your podcast for all things Rhode Island FC. I'm your host, Jason Carey, coming to you on Thursday, May 15th. RAFC have once again bested the Birmingham Legion. Can they put a streak together, though, and pick up another win against the Rowdies this weekend? We'll briefly cover the Birmingham match, look forward to RAFC's away trip to Tampa Bay. And as you may have noticed, Matt is out on assignment. And joining me this week is a very good friend, sports broadcaster and on-air talent for the Tampa Bay Rowdies, Ryan Davis. Ryan, welcome back.
Thanks for having me, Jason. I had such a good time last year. I was counting down the days to get back on the show this year.
And I talked to Matt about some of who our favorite guests are. You are always one of the first that comes up. So thank you so much for joining us again.
Absolutely. Looking forward to it.
Yeah, so not a ton of news here for the USL. I just have some random soccer-related stuff that I wanted to go through. As the de facto leader of the show, with Matt not here, I just decided let's maybe have a little fun with it here. So
let's do it. I'm willing to give my opinion on anything soccer, anything outside soccer, whatever you want to talk about, I'm game.
Perfect. Yeah, I'm ready to go off on some random tangents here. Don't tell Matt. He's out of town, so he won't know.
And by the time he hears, it's too late.
Yeah. All right. One interesting bit of news I saw here. Louisville is hosting CD Leganés on July 12th, 8 p.m. I think Louisville might be a special case here as the crown jewel of USL in some sense. But the fact that they're able to attract tertiary, secondary European teams to have friendlies, that's kind of a cool thing. And I wonder going forward as USL has aspirations to, start their own Division One, is that something that maybe other teams might look forward to, looking to get some more European and South American teams that are big enough to have a decent fan base, draw in that extra cash revenue, right? You can sell this on your fans. I mean, even think about Charleston, right? Maybe if they were to have Markanich make a homecoming, I mean, that might do well. I mean, RFC has some links to the Tractor Boys over in England with Brett Johnson. I mean, let's make it happen. What do you think about, Ryan? More friendlies in the USL? I'm all for it.
Absolutely. The Rowdies in the past, up to 2 years ago, Stoke City came down and they had their sort of summer getaway and they played a game against Tampa. And then before that, Norwich used to be such a big part of the Rowdies connection. So that Leganes game coming up, it really gives Louisville a chance to connect with Leganes, and they can use Louisville as a pipeline to get players from USL into Europe. So it works hand in hand for the players. The players get excited. They get a chance to showcase their talent. Leganes gets a chance to sort of play off script and, off season. But it's really, really beneficial down the road to have those partnerships with European teams going forward.
Yeah, absolutely. I think that's a really good point. You can kind of make those connections, get your name out there. People the USL is a pretty decent competitive league. So when you start hearing about players that are doing well, maybe there's potential transfer value there.
Well, USL, they had a couple of players up to last year and the year before where the European teams were taking players going over MLS and grabbing from USL to take them straight to Europe. So it just gives you a snippet of the type of talent that the USL has now. It's no longer, you call it the second division in the US, but what a second division though. Africans, Central Americans, South Americans, Americans. I mean, everyone comes here now in this mosh pit and plays in the USL 3 tiers, USL Championship, USL League 1 and 2. So there's a lot of opportunities to earn a living and sort of excel in your career as a soccer player in this country.
Absolutely. And we've seen with the recent Jägermeister Cup that a lot of these USL League One teams are actually pretty good. The difference between them is not that bad. So as we kind of stretch that out towards, Pro Rel eventually, USL might have something really on their hands here, like a really actual competitive soccer pyramid.
I love how different they want to be. I love how they want to push the envelope. MLS has sort of cornered itself with all the franchise owners. So you can't get anything done with all these franchises putting so much money into it. You're almost handicapped with the money that's put in. Then you're behind the paywall and Apple. I just love how USL is like, you know what? We see what the MLS is doing. We see the corner that they're in.
Oh, are we losing you, Ryan? It's freezing a bit here.
Did I go away? I am.
Oh,
so
yeah,
we just see USL playing to their strengths. They're no longer cornered like the MLS is.
Yeah, absolutely. The USL is essentially just saying whatever MLS is doing.
Yeah,
we're going to do the opposite here, and that they're kind of becoming a more traditional soccer league. I don't think they'll ever eclipse MLS, but I think that they'll be a very good alternative, especially as like soccer craze starts to maybe creep up on us with a World Cup coming up here.
Yeah. And second divisions, third divisions are so important for any country that has a league. You look at La Liga, then the second division in Spain, very, very competitive. English Championship, we can't talk how busy, competitive, and just entertaining that league is. Ligue 1, Ligue 2 in France, Bundesliga as well. So every country that wants to be taken seriously has to have a body, or let's call it the meat of talent. It's not all going to be at the top, but it has to be shed in between 3 to 4 divisions.
Absolutely. Kind of like our rising tide lifts all boats kind of situation here.
Yeah, of course.
And then moving on here, we had a USL Championship Goal of the Week contest, and our one and only Joe Brito won for his strike against Monterey Bay FC. What a hit. Did you get a chance to see that goal, Ryan?
I did not get a chance to see it, but I've been hearing about Brito. So I want to ask you, Jason, after what you've seen from Brito so far this season, where do you rank him? Out of 10, would you say 10 out of 10, perfect? 7, he's good. 8, that's something serious. 9, well, he's a star.
So it's tough. I would give him 2 ratings. And so this is why. Joe Brito off the bench, 9 out of 10.
Okay.
The problem is what we've seen from him. He hasn't been able to replicate that as a starter. When we kind of get a little bit into the Birmingham match here later on, he was definitely good, but he was, let's say, more of 7 out of 10. He didn't have the same impact he has when he comes off the bench. So I think he's got to find a way to replicate that performance off the bench right off from the bat to kind of get coach to maybe give him some more looks, I think.
And, it's okay to have that knack to come off the bench and change games. I mean, the super sub role is highly valued in this sport. So if Brito can fill that role for Rhode Island at this point and then grow into a starter, that's great. But when you start, there's a lot more discipline involved in starting because you have to pick up defensive responsibilities. And then also you're getting the other team's best shot. Everyone's fresh. Everyone's ready to go. At the same time, you're not coming in with fresh legs against tired legs. And there's nothing wrong with that. I'm just saying there definitely is a big change from starting. You have to play within the system. Sometimes you can come on and just express yourself, kind of, just sort of create something or be a little bit greedy. But when you start the game, understand you're part of a puzzle and you have to stick to that plan.
Absolutely. And I think that's the problem or conundrum he finds himself in, where he comes off the bench against tired legs, and in that situation too, like you said, you're not the starter. You maybe don't have the same defensive responsibilities. The tactics are coaches bringing you on for maybe a specific purpose to try and get that spark off the bench. So you have a little more freedom in kind of the way you play. And at that point too, you're not a starter. So what is he going to do? Not start you the next match? You're already not starting, right? So you can go on, maybe even disregard coach's instructions a little bit, create some sort of magic, and then kind of create this headache for coach. Like, well, you come on and bring this magic to me, but like, how do I get that from a full 90 minutes from you?
Yeah, I know it's actually 60-30, right? Do I get 30 minutes of brilliance from Brito? But I actually want 60 minutes of brilliance from Brito. So how does Brito transfer that 30 minutes to 60 minutes of quality which is it's hard to do. It's not an easy task. If everyone can do it, we'll be talking about 2,000 names per week.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah, and then talking about some other USL League One action, we had a Chattanooga Red Wolves SC versus FC Naples game yesterday that kind of turned into more like a mud wrestling match than an actual football match, or maybe even one of those throwback games from the 80s, 90s with like complete waterlogged pitch. And on top of that, it was at noon, just a brunch game. I love that idea. I mean, we had a Loudoun match against Charleston last year that started at like 11 a.m. Another great match. I really hope that we kind of get at least one brunch match a year.
Yes.
Honestly, I'd be willing for a little more variety in the TV slots. Sometimes it feels like throw every single game on at 7 o'clock. Like, spread them out.
Nuts. I mean, you go onto any schedule right now, and each one of the leagues in Europe are saving a game or two, one for the Friday and one for the Monday. So and of course Saturday and Sunday is filled. So yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, I don't know if like US is ready for Monday games. We're not that deep into the soccer like sicko yet.
Yeah.
But I think Friday nights are good. You definitely get some watching there. You know, Wednesday nights have kind of hit or miss. We've had some decent attendance. Sure. RFC's recent match against the Revolution Open Cup, we had 7,500. Or no, that was 9,500. So I meant for a Wednesday match,
that's impressive.
That's pretty impressive there.
Yeah.
But yeah,
I love the Wednesday soccer. I mean, it breaks up the week, and the players love it too, because you don't want to go through 5 days of training. That's so monotonous. So let's do 2 days of training, play a match, and then come back the next day, have a bit of a walkthrough, everybody recover, train Friday, back at it Saturday. Players love it.
Yeah, Matt just recently interviewed Maxi Rodriguez, and he was saying he loves that too, where when you have match after match after match, you don't have to actually do that much training. You focus more on recovery, and then you could just get out there and actually just play your game.
Yeah, and actually playing the game is what maintains the fitness, right? So you're running for 90 minutes, or if you're 70 minutes, that's fine. But playing at that game pace, that in itself is either maintaining fitness or getting you up to speed to game fitness.
Absolutely. And then just another bit of some random news here. Did you see the USA men's net team, women's team as well, dropped a new kit? We are 393 days to be exact away from the 2026 World Cup. Luckily for the US, as host, they do not have to face the mighty Trinidad and Tobago to qualify. So, you know, it's speaking of which, Ryan.
You're lucky, Jason. You're lucky. Count your lucky stars, right, buddy?
Very lucky. Did you see those performances recently from the US? They haven't been very good.
I think Pochettino is going to demand a lot from the young players, and he's going to demand a lot of effort in pressing. So if you're not willing to press, we're talking about all 10 players and the keeper playing high, you're not going to be in Pochettino's list. And they have given Pochettino the green light. So the players are the ones that have to respond. You can't sit back and say, well, you know what? Let's just hang around. The coach is going to leave in a little while. He's there until after the World Cup. If you want a chance to play in the World Cup, you better play Poch football, and which is very entertaining, by the way. But it's a lot of selfless running.
Yeah. After those recent games, there was a lot of US men's team players who kind of came out and were very critical of the performances. And like part of me, I don't want to be a football dinosaur or curmudgeon, but I kind of agreed with some of them. I don't feel like there was any bite or fight to this team. It felt like a lot of them were, well, I play on a team in Europe, so clearly I made it, but you're kind of lacking that personality and leadership that they have here. It kind of reminds me of the same way that, you know, ex-Liverpool stars and ex-Man U stars are constantly berating their teams when they're not doing well. But a lot of times, you know, I don't think they're too far off. There's more than just talent to a team, right? You need to have some leadership and drive, and I just don't know if we have that in this U.S. team right now.
You know, Jason, you bring up a good point. From someone from the outside looking in, from Trinidad and Tobago, just to see the U.S., and I'm going to take it all the way back. just to see the US go from stride to stride. We're talking from 1988, and they made the World Cup for the first time in 1990 in Italy. Tony Meola and all the boys, John Harkes. And then in 94, they host. But that older unit, they were definitely playing for the flag. They wrap themselves in your flag and you play. And you play against the rest of the world. That's how the rest of the world does it. Forget the club. I'm putting my flag around my chest and I'm going to play for my country. So my tackling is going to be harder. My aggressiveness is going to be even more exaggerated. I'm going to defend even more. I'm going to be more disciplined than what I do for my club. And that's what the US has to get back, because the US team did have that bite that you mentioned. And I think the younger players, if they don't get on board, you're going to get left behind, because when other countries, I'm going to go down to South America, Brazil, Argentina, when those shirts come on, Jason, they're beasts, they're animals. They're playing for their grandmothers, they're playing for their grandfathers, their uncles, their aunts, their mother, their fathers, brothers and sisters in the crowd. That's who they're playing for. And you can see that on the field. And I really want the US to understand that.
Absolutely. Like every time you watch a CONMEBOL qualifier, it's like a war.
Yes.
Right. For night, they could all be best friends because they'll play together on teams in Europe or something. But during those 90 minutes, they hate each other's guts and they're fighting tooth and nail for their country. And we don't see that with the US.
Yeah, I got it. And that comes down into the club teams as well. I got a chance to commentate some CONCACAF Champions Cup last year and this year. And what I see, the Mexicans, they run riot in that tournament. You know why? Because they travel so well. Mexican teams, Central American teams, they're used to adversity. So they can go to play in any sort of environment and stick to a plan, come away with a result. And when you go into their backyard as a club team, watch out. It's going to be mayhem. And I don't see MLS teams coming with that same sort of vigor, that same sort of direction. They go in there thinking, you know what, man, we're MLS, we got loaded with stars, look at us. You have to have that bite that you mentioned a little while ago. When you travel, you have to learn to suffer without the ball, Jason, to get results in an uncomfortable environment. And the US teams have to start doing that.
Absolutely. Have you seen the Trinidad and Tobago qualifying group for the World Cup here?
I did take a peek.
For those of you listening along, they are in Group B with it's Costa Rica, Trinidad and Tobago, St. Kitts and Nevis, Grenada, and the Bahamas. How do you feel about the chances there?
There's an imaginary line in CONCACAF, and Trinidad and Tobago, they used to be above that line, right? They used to be hanging out with US and Costa Rica, Canada. They used to hang out with that bunch. Then they dropped all the way down to the other side of the line, and now they're working their way back up. They're just before that line. So they're going to have a hard time with Costa Rica, to be fair. But they should be able to manage. Say it again, St. Kitts and whom?
St. Kitts, is it Nevis or Nevis?
Nevis.
Nevis. Okay.
St. Kitts and Nevis.
And then Bahamas. So yeah, I think the only...
take care Bahamas and St. Kitts and Nevis. They beat Bahamas 7-1 last summer in Bahamas. They're at, let's say, two lines then. So they're in between that bottom side, bottom third, and the top third. So they're in the second third in CONCACAF.
Yeah, so it really depends on Costa Rica here. I think they're the only kind of opponents that they would need to get through to get out of that group.
And I'll give everyone a quick snippet. Dwight York, who's our most recognized player ever, played for Manchester United under Sir Alex Ferguson, won the treble. He was really that good. He was won the most goals in the EPL, playing for Aston Villa before he was recruited to Manchester United. But he learned to play under Sir Alex Ferguson. So he learned to suffer without the ball. If we're going away from home, we're traveling in the Champions League, we're going into Serie A, we're going into Juventus, who have this incredible team. This is what we do. We stick to a plan, we get a result, and we come out. So he's starting to bring that professionalism to the TNT players. A very, very clear game plan, and nobody's allowed to stray. And that's starting to come to fruition.
Yeah, the USA will be very worried if Trinidad and Tobago makes it to the World Cup. With the way the stars would aligned, of course they would somehow get put into the same group.
There's so many stories coming from that matchup. I mean, we could go all night.
Speaking of last bit of random soccer news, I just wanted to bring up here. Hashtag not an MLS podcast. But did you see that 3-3 San Jose Inter Miami game where after the match, Bruce Arena was holding back Messi from trying to fight the refs to make sure that he didn't get set off after the game?
I did see that. I actually saw the clip this morning on YouTube. Okay, Lionel Messi, confession to everyone, I've been following soccer 40 years now. 51, so when I was actually more than 40 years. So Argentina has always been my team. I adopted team. So I know from Maradona all the way up, he got me into soccer. Lionel Messi, I've seen him. I've seen his career. I've adored his career. But you reach a point when you've done so much and you're so adored that you kind of lose the plot. And you see Ronaldo over in Saudi Arabia throwing tantrums like he usually does over and over. And then you see Messi throwing a tantrum last night. That's what it was. You see him kind of lose the plot a little bit. And I hate to see that. And it's rare to see Messi do it, but it's starting to come around a lot more than it used to.
Yeah, I wonder if it's almost time for him to kind of hang up his boots. I know he has aspirations to try and play the World Cup next year. I wonder if that's a similar situation, though, where he can kind of hamstrung the Argentina team the same way that Ronaldo does to Portugal, where they kind of need to let go and move on and let the younger guys kind of come in and start making their name for the team. I don't think it's necessarily bad if they were there to be a substitute role, because even at their old age there, they still have a lot of quality to bring.
Absolutely.
But the reality is that they're not always necessarily going to be starters. And I don't think that they have the ability, or a lot of the coaches have the wherewithal to be able to pull them back and say, like, no, look, I've got this younger up and coming guys.
Yeah.
I need to really build the team around them. I can bring you on last maybe 20, 30 minutes or something to help make an impact, but you aren't the starter anymore.
So I have a very, very good friend from Argentina. His name is Leo Alvarez. We've done a couple of podcasts on Argentina football talking about this very subject. The sum of parts is always greater than the individual. Let's begin there, okay? But Lionel Messi is larger than life. And he's
Absolutely.
even larger in Argentina, okay? And what he's done. He went through the ringer with Argentina. The fans hated him. He had all this ability, but could never lead them because he had to follow in the footsteps of Diego Maradona. And if you know anything about Maradona's career, that's very hard to follow. Luckily for Messi, they put it all together 3 years ago. They won the World Cup and 2 Copa Americas running. So now he's God status. But that kind of gets in the way of the coach and Argentina itself building a team to win the next World Cup. I think Messi should be on the squad, but I think he should be, Messi, you're part of the squad. I cannot guarantee you a starting spot on this squad. I think it's fair. He can't press. Yeah. Modern soccer is about pressing, right?
Yeah.
Discomfort without the ball. And now Messi, you're literally pressing with 9. With Messi just kind of strolling. You know what I mean?
Absolutely. I'll be curious to see how that pans out, but that was just such a wild story. I wasn't expecting to see a timeline where Bruce Arena was trying to calm Lionel Messi down.
Yeah.
All right, let's get back on track here and review Birmingham Legion versus RAFC. So yeah, RAFC head down to Birmingham last night. They came away with a 1-0 win. Wasn't a particularly pretty match, but one of those things where you just kind of get it done. Really briefly, just to kind of talk about what the lineup looked like. As always, we've got Koke Vegas and Nets. They continue with a back four here of Rio Hope Gun in the right back spot. We've got Aime Mabika, Frank Nodarse, Aldair Sanchez. They've got those 2 holding midfielders there, Clay Holstad and Amos Shapiro-Thompson. Those midfielders there, Noah Fuson, Maxi Rodriguez, Joe Brito, and of course up top, Albert Diqua, Mr. Chico. Mabika had got his first start, recently signed for us, and I think he did pretty well. It still surprises me every time I've seen it. Have you seen how tall this guy is?
No, I have not, but he's 6'5".
Yeah, he looks
He could probably
he towers above everyone.
he can dunk with ease. We're talking about reverse. We're talking about tomahawk, windmill, any kind of dunk you want.
Absolutely, yeah.
You know, as a centre back, you kind of want that though. That's a serious presence to have back there, and with the aerial dominance. I mean, we're talking set pieces as well, going forward, getting goals for the coach. That's huge. The centre backs have to get goals to support the team. They can't just defend. And then taking care of the aerial duty defensively. I mean, to have a presence like that, that's a game changer for Rhode Island. Game changer.
Absolutely. I think going forward, they're definitely going to have to kind of figure out how to work him into the set pieces there, because he's just going to be towering above everyone. And that could work out well for them. Joe Brito, like we mentioned earlier, he got the start here after his heroics coming on late against Monterey Bay FC. He continues to have the highest amount of shots on target for any RAFC player. Didn't find himself a goal last night, but ultimately they got the win. So can't complain there too much.
You know, there's an old saying from my coach when I was back in high school. He's like, Ryan, aim for the goalkeeper. You're not that good. It's going to end up in the corner. I think Brito is taking that too literally. He's aiming for the goalkeeper and kicking all the shots to the goalkeeper. So hence the reason all the shots are on target, on goal, but he's not getting goals. I'm just kidding. But yeah,
no.
Brito, I think it's going to come. You have to have that mentality. If you're shooting, it's not going in, you got to keep shooting. That's just the way it is. You're getting paid to shoot, please. And you have the ability to get shots off. And there never really is the perfect shot, Jason. You're always off balance. There's always a defender on you. So in Brito's defense, to put those shots on target continuously is a testament to his technique.
Yeah, and then sometimes the goalkeeper doesn't save it, right? It spills, there's a deflection, and then you're kind of hoping for, Albert Diqua scored 20 goals a few years ago just from kind of cleaning up second balls. So, sometimes this team feels they're a little anemic to shooting. They want to hold on to the ball too much, look for the perfect opportunity.
Yeah.
Obviously, you don't want to just take random shots like you're playing FIFA or something, but there's a balance there, right?
Is that your game plan in FIFA, Jason? You cross the half and just let it go?
Well, there's like a sweet spot, right? When you get practice, you can just get right outside the box and you can get it to the top every time,
Yeah. Lionel Messi.
We're not playing video games here, real life.
Sadly.
Yeah. To kind of break down a little bit of the match, first 15 minutes, RFC dominated, 58.5% possession. 79.6% of the possession was also towards that middle and that Birmingham's final third. RAFC loved to press and kind of box their opponents in. And they saw results from that in the 14th minute. We won the ball in the midfield, send it out wide to Albert Diqua Chico, who passed it back in to Maxi Rodriguez, who slots it home to the bottom. From there, the pendulum kind of slowly shifted. And we actually saw the last 15 minutes, Birmingham kind of dominated the lion's share of possession there. But they did get a red card there in the 45th minute that kind of blew all their plans up there. So interesting first half of soccer. I think you could hear from the crowd the Birmingham fans were not happy about that red card. But on review, you look at it, it wasn't a straight red. It was a secondary yellow there, right? And he realized he was sliding in. He kind of pulled his leg back, but it was high. So I don't think they have too many complaints there about that second yellow. Did you get a chance to see any of that?
I did not, but I have these stats right in front of me. But you have to give Coach Smith some credit to convince the guys to be so disciplined for such a long period of time. Getting the goal from, of course, Diqua, and by the way, Maxi Rodriguez. I'm going to go and talk about him in a little bit. But to manage the game, I never am a fan for defending a one-goal lead. That's like you're walking a tightrope there, right? But the fact that the players can get behind the ball and make it so hard for Birmingham in their house and come away with a 1-0 lead, hats off to Rhode Island. Not easy going into Birmingham to get 3 points, and they did. Hats off. And a big credit to the coaching staff as well.
Yeah, and it was great to see Maxi get a goal here. It is his first goal in the championship. It is his third goal for the team, though, but he's definitely had a little bit of, I think, struggle integrating into the team a bit, right? A lot of this Rhode Island FC team was the same that carried over. I think there was a few bits and pieces. We've had a bit of a slow start, very reminiscent of what happened last year, but to kind of get him scoring there, Albert Dequa got another assist. I'm going to tease him here for a second. You know, he's been going out wide a lot. He's been making great passes, and this is actually his second assist now. He's, you know, becoming better at assisting almost than scoring. And I know, talking to Chico, that he is an Arsenal fan, so it's very typical of an Arsenal striker to not score and be able to assist.
I'm a Liverpool fan, so I'm chuckling away here. So
I'll love Chico. I'm just messing with you.
yeah,
I think that he, you know, he actually was really proud of himself last year when we were talking to him about Coach Kano's been working with him, and he's been getting a lot better at becoming like an assister of the ball. Whereas we look back a few seasons when he was tearing it up with Pittsburgh, it was just like 20 goals, no assists.
yeah. Well, you know what? You have to give Dequa credit. He's the lone striker up there, and there's so many responsibilities for a lone striker. You can't just sit on the centre backs and hope the ball comes to your feet. And the fact that he's pulling out wide, and I'm doing my homework here already, he has 10 chances. He leads the team in chances created, which means, like you said, he's pulling out wide and allowing Maxi Rodriguez and Brito to come into the box, towards the penalty box, by the penalty spot, and create for them with his speed on the wings. I mean, that is, even if he's not scoring at the rate he was last season, he's doing a lot of work. And that's what coaches look at.
Oh, absolutely. And he always works really hard off the ball. I think some of our fan base is being a little too tough on him because they're just looking at that goal number. But
he'll come around.
You got to look at the complete package there.
Correct. Yeah.
So as long as he's helping the team, like, I'm happy.
I want to ask you a question. Former Rowdy, and I think former Birmingham player, JJ Williams.
Yeah.
So he has 2 goals for you guys. What is his role with Dequa?
So it's interesting you asked that. They haven't actually got a lot of playing time together. The one, I don't want to say curse with this team is that, you know, we almost have rotating injuries with our striker core. Yeah. They take turns kind of getting injuries. So there's been times where they've been healthy and playing together, but not long enough to like really, I think, create like some pure chemistry. Early on this season, before JJ picked up a knock recently, we're hoping maybe 3 to 4 weeks. We'll kind of see as more news comes out, but JJ's been killing it up top there. He's been really good at distribution. You know, our keeper, Koke Vegas, is very comfortable at passing the ball. So he's sending these long balls. JJ is bullying center backs, and he is winning those balls, and he's getting those knockdowns to one of our midfielders and then kind of pulling the play forward as we kind of press and follow behind him. I think that we could probably see a really good partnership with them, especially as our team is very flexible in positioning, right?
Yeah.
We've been lining up as a 4-2-3-1. But if you go back and look at our heat map and like the average positions, we still love to push into that kind of 3-back line where the wingers will push high, and maybe one of the, or wingbacks, I should say, will push high. One of them will stay back. Koke even loves to like hang out near midfield at times.
Yep.
So we're very flexible in position there. And I can see with Albert Dequa getting better at being an assister of the ball that he can do what he did last night and kind of drag out to wide, take those flicks back into the center of the play, and have JJ there to clean it up, and vice versa. Because JJ is pretty comfortable about doing that as well, too, about being strong there, winning the ball, and kind of passing it out to someone else and moving play forward.
Yeah, he's a great target man. Get the ball to his feet or his chest or whatever, he could lay it off. Only knock on JJ Williams was when he doesn't have the ball and the other team has it, his pressing is not, he's not as committed, put it that way. And I think that gets him in trouble. But the fact is he's buying in now to that side of his game. It means he's taking steps in his career and in advancing and getting better. Now, I'm going to boast a little bit. You guys are coming to Al Lang Stadium, which is, I mean, that field is international grade. The width of the field is one of the more wider fields in USL. So it's going to allow Dequa to go out a little further out and use his pace outside, and even Brito as well. So I think he's going to have some fun this weekend utilizing that space.
Absolutely. I don't know the sizes off the top of my head, but I also know our Centerville Bank Stadium is pretty wide too. So I wouldn't be surprised if it's pretty close in terms of dimensions there. Just to kind of wrap up this Birmingham game here real quick. So Birmingham got a red card. They played the entire second half with 10 men. From there, RAFC dominated possession. It kind of became a bit of a shooting gallery. That being said, Van Okel kept them in the game.
The grandfather of goalkeepers in USL. Go ahead.
Yeah. And, as an RAFC fan, it felt like maybe a bit of squeaky bum time there where, the 1-0 lead is always kind of scary. But ultimately, they were able to kind of close up shop and get it done.
I want to jump back on Maxi Rodriguez. Got a chance to broadcast the game when he was in Nisa and he was playing for Detroit. This is when Detroit was just absolutely wiping the floor with Nisa before they came into USL. And I got a chance to see Maxi Rodriguez. He was a box-to-box player at that point, so he had a lot of defensive responsibilities as well. But you just saw how different he was covering ground, how good he was engaging in tackles. Then you saw him with the ball, close control, very direct with his running. So the fact that I get a chance to see him now in USL every week I really, really enjoy watching Maxi Rodriguez.
Yeah, he really is a special player. If you get a chance, you should check out the interview Matt did with him. It's very interesting. He, at one point, almost gave up soccer.
Really?
He was this close to quitting. He was having trouble kind of breaking into the first team. And so he went to Detroit and that kind of vitalized his career, but he almost just kind of ended up just working at UPS.
Wow. So. He'll be the best soccer player on the UPS team. Tell you what.
Yeah, it's crazy to think about how close some of these players are to just kind of hanging up their boots. And I think, when we go back to a topic we were talking about earlier and building a soccer pyramid system, right? That's going to give a lot more opportunities and a lot more eyes on the game. And you're going to have availability for people to have legitimate careers and become professional soccer players.
So they can put the time in to become better players. And as a result, the league itself is going to go to a different standard. And that goes not even USL Championship. We're talking League One, USL League Two. If that can have the continued support, I should say, of the advertising, the TV rights, then it can only go from strength to strength. So you see someone like Maxi Rodriguez, the fact that Nisa was having the game of the week on beIN Sports means some money was coming into Nisa, so he can have an opportunity to, feed himself to play for Detroit at that point. That was great to see. But like you just mentioned, it would really be awesome to see more money going in to League Two, League One, and of course the Championship.
Absolutely. And so to wrap up the match there with Rhode Island's second away win of the season now, they've jumped up to 6th place with 9 points on a 2-3-3 record. As we look ahead to the weekend match here against Tampa Bay, they're currently on a 1-1-6 record with 4 points. Ouch. Really quickly before we jump into the Tampa Bay story here, just to recap the meetings with each other last year, early match of the season, RAFC head down, they get an early goal, they lose 4-1 away. Late in the season, the Rowdies come away to visit us. I know at that time they were going through some troubles at the time. There's a lot of injuries. But at the same time, RFC kind of also found their footing and they were kind of in the form of their life. It was the perfect
storm. Yeah. Talking about storms, we left a lot of storms and walked into the perfect storm in Rhode Island in October. Yeah.
Yeah. And so that saw RFC besting them 3-1.
Yeah.
I mean, technically Rowdies win in terms of goal difference there by 1.
That's right, Jason. You remember that, okay?
So in terms of since the last time we have seen Tampa Bay, the story of their season so far, transfers, performance results, tactics, coaching change, what can you tell us of what's going on with them so far this year?
Let's go back to last summer, like you just mentioned. There was horrific storms down here. We talked about that in the last podcast. There was damage done to players' homes. I think the Rowdies team that year, at least half of the year, was completely stunted on the field. There was no progress. Actually, it reclined. So I think the coaching staff itself, they got rid of the coach that was there, Robbie. He was stunted as well. The team was stunted, and I think that carried over into 2025, sadly. And now we're seeing the new coaching staff trying to piece things together. Jason, it's tough because the Rowdies was so successful in getting to 2 USL Championship finals. One was shared because of the COVID pandemic. The other one, they lost to Orange County. There's a core group of players that were on those teams that were really good. They still are good, but they've gotten older. And then they have a lot of some young players coming in that they're trying to groom. So we're kind of caught in a sort of an in-between area right now where there's some veteran players and they have some pretty good young players.
Yeah, I actually have a list here we could run through real quick from John Morrissey. So these are the players that left here in the offseason. We've got Damian Rivera, Ben Bender, Jordan Farr, Cal Jennings, Freddie Kleeman, Jordan Doherty, Phil Breno, Zane Bubb, Eddie Majoma, Josh Perez, and Christian Ortiz. That's a pretty long list of names right there.
Yeah. Jordan Farr, he's in the MLS saving now. I believe DC United, correct?
I think so.
Yeah, so he's quality. Manjuma, he's a utility player, can play in the back line or in the midfield. Then Cal Jennings. I mean, Cal Jennings is good for a goal a match, right?
He punished us earlier this year.
Yeah, and he has the ability to do what Deco does, go out wide, take on his player, come back in, and square it back for the midfielders coming in. He really is a two-way player up top. So he's impossible to replace in the USL, period. So that happened to us. We're victims of that. So we lost a lot of players in their prime, in that mid 25, 26, 27 range. And that really hamstrung the team. Yes, it sounds like an excuse, call it whatever you want, but the team really has to rebuild right now. It really does. No excuses. This is where they are. There's no getting around it. And as the old cliche goes, there is no easy way out of this.
Absolutely. And then I've got a list of some players that have joined here. We've got Ollie Bassett, Lawrence Wyke, Joey Skinner, Robert Castellanos, Wuben Pasius, Thomas Vanakaziel. Have you been practicing saying that name? That one is
yeah, you did good. That's it. Vanakaziel. Yeah, that's great.
And then Nicholas Campesini, Cameron McPherson, and Ethan Bandieri.
Some quality did come in, not to replace everyone, but some of these slots were pretty good. McPherson came from Scotland. He came and he plays attacking midfield, like where Maxi Rodriguez plays. He's very industrious, can shoot. Got injured a couple of weeks ago against Birmingham, so he has been off. What really hurt the Rowdies is that the two of their players in that 25 to 27 range, Nick Moon on the right and Blake Bodley on the left, they both got injured in the third game of the season. And Blake Bodley just came back and played 60 minutes this last week. So when Nick Moon comes back, that would be a great addition. He'll be back in the next 2 weeks or so. But until then, we have sort of a mix and match. But we do have the former MVP, Leo Fernandez. And when you get a chance to see him, Jason, this weekend, when he gets on the ball, different gravy. Just different, right? He gets on the ball, you're like, okay, that's just a step above. So he's a lot of fun.
Absolutely. And how has the new coach been settling in here? I know Robbie Nielsen left, and I think it was the assistant coach that's taken over, right? I think he has some experience with, was it New Zealand?
New Zealand, and then he was the assistant coach in Loudon last year when Loudon made their run. all those youngsters. So he loves playing aggressive soccer, which we love in the Rowdies as well. He loves grooming young talent, which he's trying to do at the moment, rebuilding. But he was left with a lot of holes, a lot of gaps to fill. And yeah, it's not easy. I don't envy his position at this point, but the Rowdies are going to give him as much time as he needs to rebuild his squad because they understand the position that he's in. But he's a great guy. He's from England. He played cricket, so I get a chance to talk cricket with him. Yep, forget the soccer. We get to talk cricket for a while. Then we come back to soccer. And then he lived in New Zealand, which is one of the best places in the world to live. And then got a chance to come here and get his shot in the USL. So Coach Coleman is a fantastic human being, and he has a lot of work ahead of him. He knows that. I know that. Everyone knows that. So that's where he is.
That's awesome. And then, so when we look at the season itself here, this is the 50th anniversary of the Tampa Bay Rowdies. Maybe unfortunate that they're not in a better position. But when we look at this, is there any sort of pomp and circumstance for this historic occasion? Will Rowdies legend Big Sam Allardyce be maybe in attendance to a match at some point this year?
That'd be fantastic, but you have to pay attention to the uniforms, Jason. Okay, the uniforms are fantastic, retro. You'll see them white with the little hoops on the side. It is probably the best thing of the season so far.
I've looked back. I really dig the old classic logo that they have there.
It's kind of cool, huh? Yeah. You know, Tampa Bay, they do carry a responsibility in this league of being one of the pillars in U.S. soccer over the history, and they understand that. So they really try to carry themselves with grace and try to represent U.S. soccer as one of the pillars. 50 years, Jason. That is a long time in U.S. soccer. In U.S. soccer, yeah.
Yeah, not many teams in the U.S. can say that. No. Unfortunately, we've had a lot of ups and downs here with U.S. soccer. There's plenty of teams who have folded. You know, it's an unfortunate reality of the USL still. You know, it wasn't too long ago that we just lost Memphis, who did very well that season, but all of a sudden they're gone.
San Diego as well. Good team.
Yeah, San Diego. So yeah, I recently talking to some friends about ProWell, and I'm like, you know, to be honest, I'm really excited about it, but I'm really concerned that, you know, USL needs to make sure that the teams they're bringing into the league really have that financial backing to not fold within a few years, because you don't want to see that if we're trying to build a soccer pyramid here.
Yes, 100%. It looks so bad if you can't maintain your status as a professional team. What I hope would happen, or when it does happen, the ProRel, I think they should, to divide the leagues up. If you want to go with, how should we say this? If you want to go with 18, how much is there now? 12, 24 teams. If you want to relegate 4 teams, I think you look at the body of work for 5 years, and then the teams at the bottom 4 for those 5 years. Or you have to do points per game over 5 years, and then you can get an idea of who you would like to start off in Division 2. If they do that, I'm not sure. But I can't wait for pro relegation. I mean, that just changes everything, Jason. There's no night off. Like where the Rowdies are right now, and you guys walk into Al Lang Stadium, we talk about fighting tooth and nail in the middle of the season. It's incredible.
Yeah, and maybe that's the kind of the thing with the spark we need for U.S. soccer. Maybe that's why we don't have the kind of bite, going back to what we were talking about earlier, where American teams don't have that fight because they don't have to go through that situation. They don't really, they don't know what it's like to go through the ringer.
Yeah. And then you go back down to empty stands, and you go back down to grounds that you can barely call grounds. And this happens all over the world. And they go back, and you go back to basics, and you work your way back up.
Yeah, it sounds like a win-win situation to me. Make U.S. soccer better, get ProRel. I'm all for it.
Yeah, and if MLS wants to have their closed door thing, go for it. Absolutely, you do your thing. But a lot of people are going to put eyes on the USL with that format.
Absolutely. To tie it back here, get a little bit back on track. There was some recent news here in regards to some stadium concerns with the Rowdies. Do you know if there's any fire behind that rumor? Is there any actual concern there?
At this point, the Rowdies are good for this year and next year. After that, there are no guarantees. The owners of the Rowdies, as everyone knows, are the Tampa Bay Ray owners. They are posturing right now with St. Petersburg and the Tampa Bay area about trying to get a new stadium. If not, I believe they want to either move on. We're not sure. That's all been out in the open in the Tampa Bay Times and so on, right? So it's just an ongoing drama. So the Rowdies are taking care of what they can control. But for right now, Al Lang, which is historic in itself, Babe Ruth played in Al Lang, everyone. Al Lang is alive and well. Jason, are you going to come to Al Lang this Saturday?
Unfortunately, not this Saturday, but I really do need to get down. It kind of came up on us too fast. You know, I'm looking ahead to the rest of the season, trying to figure out where else I'll need to plan a trip. I'm going to put that on the map for next year. Jason, whenever we go down the Rowdies, I'm going to make sure I head down there.
You come to Al Lang, I'm going to get you up in the booth, right? The commentary booth. You see how we do it, and the first beer is on me. So please.
Awesome. I'm looking forward to that.
Yeah.
And so when we kind of start to look ahead to this match here, just going to run through some injury report here real quick. Isaac Enking is still getting closer. We think early June he might be available. I don't know how fast he's going to jump back into it. There's that Puerto Rico friendly that's going to be held at Centerville Bank Stadium. And he might want to go there, but that might be too soon. Maybe he'll just kind of make a cursory bench appearance or something. Ugo Bacharach, about a month away. Danny Rivera, similar, about a month. And then JJ Williams has got a calf strain there. We're hoping best case scenario, 4 to 6 weeks. We'll kind of give more updates as we know that. Any sort of injuries or concerns right now with Rowdies? I know you had mentioned Blake Bodley's coming back from injury. I saw recently he did play 60 minutes over the weekend. Anyone else we might be missing here?
For sure, Nick Moon. I mentioned him on that right-hand side for the Rowdies. Such an experienced player. That really does hurt. How can I forget? The general himself, Lewis Hilton, who plays in the middle of the park for us. He was one of those easy orchestrator. Plays deep in front of the back line, in front of the back four. He is not available for another couple of weeks. We severely miss him. He dictates the tempo of the game for us, and he's our Perlo. And it's you can see there's no rhythm in midfield now that he's gone. So it's Nick Moon and Lewis Hilton, the two that stand out the most.
All right. And then when we look to projected formation here, guaranteed to be incorrect. Koke Vegas in net, obviously. I think our back four is going to look like Hope Gund. I think Mabika will get the start again here with Nodarce and Sanchez. I think Amos Shapiro-Thompson will get the night off here. So we'll have Holstead and Harivo. I wouldn't be surprised to see Mark Ibarra. I know he's coming back on the mend, but because of that, I think if anything, he'll more likely be a substitute. I think we'll see Quizera return to the starting lineup with Rodriguez and Noah Fuson. And then I think Chico's going to be up top there again. Maybe look for a 60th, 70th minute substitution. This is RFC's 5th game in 14 days. So they are going to have some tired legs here. I'd imagine we'll see some decent amount of substitutions here throughout this match.
Sorry, you mentioned this before. Is JJ available for this match?
No, he won't be available, unfortunately.
Okay. Rowdies, same thing. It's going to be a 4-2-3-1. They're going to try to play 3 number 10s. Ollie Bassett, who came from Canada, former Canadian Player of the Year. When you see him, Jason, you're going to be impressed. Leo Fernandez, the 2022 MVP. He's a legend in USL. He's going to be playing behind the forward. And Nyanga Berry, the man from Burundi, Africa. He's going to play on that right-hand side. It's a lot of fun. Up top, Artiaga started. I don't know. Of course, I have no idea, but Pacias has 4 goals. He didn't start last match. He came on and he scored. I think Pacias might get the nod. I don't know. And then in midfield, I think you're going to see Cristostomo, In the middle of the park, you're going to see Nate Worth again, I think. And then at the back line, Forrest Lasso, Aaron Guillen in the centre backs, Blake Bodley left back, and Lawrence White at right back. That's my prediction.
All right. And then we look ahead to the match here. Ryan, what do the Tampa Bay Rowdies need to do here to get some sort of result against RIFC?
Score more goals than Rhode Island. You walk right into that one. You walk right into that one, Jason. Yeah.
You're not wrong here, but like if we want to expand that about like how do you think this game's going to pan out here?
Well, both teams are suffering from the same disease. They have 7 goals in 5 games. The Rowdies' biggest problem is conceding. It's hard in this fantastic sport. It's so hard to play uphill, and uphill is when you concede first. So you have to really try to not concede first. That's why scoring the first goal in football is the most precious and the hardest thing to do, because everybody's on their game. Everybody's just heard from the coach, their lineup. So the Rowdies have to prevent from conceding for a long period of time to give themselves a chance to win the game.
Yeah, and on the RAFC side, we've seen that they've actually had a pretty strong defense this year. Their main kind of issue has been like, let's call them brain farts, where they'll defend like for 89 minutes perfectly. They'll just kind of have, they'll have that one lapse where they just kind of, someone gets caught ball watching or something, or loses their man, doesn't commit it to give away goals. We saw a good performance against Birmingham. I think they'll need to continue that in terms of their defense. In regards to the attack, they need to continue to create quality opportunities there for the strikers. And I think RFC, if they don't get to, double-digit shots, they don't end up scoring any goals here. They're not as clinical yet. They're still kind of working through some of the kinks. There's been a lot of good combination play throughout the midfield there. Lots of nice passing. But like you mentioned earlier with Joe Brito, sometimes you just end up that final shot just goes straight to the keeper there.
Final product,
Yeah. So I think they're going to need to be a little more clinical here. Rowdies are not in a great spot. RAFC so far this year have done well on the road. So I think that if they kind of play a good game here, I think there's a good opportunity for them to pick up another win.
I smell a prediction, Jason. Let's hear it.
I'm going to go 2-1. I think Rowdies are good for a goal. Artiega.
That's fair. Yeah, in Alan, absolutely.
Or Leo Fernandez as well. They've got a lot of quality up there. So
they do. I think, you know what? Let me just take a quick peek here at Rhode Island for one more. I was doing my homework before this. So a 1, draw, lost, draw 1, 1-0, 1-1, 2-1. So yeah, goals are struggling for Rhode Island too. I think going on the road against Birmingham, this team is going to be full of confidence. My only concern for Rhode Island, like you mentioned a little while ago, there's a lot of effort going into Birmingham to get 3 points.
Tired legs, yeah.
Do you still have that energy? Not over for 45 minutes. Do you have the energy for 90 minutes to get that result? So sorry, Jason. I'm going to say 2-2. It's going to be a banger of a game. 2-2, forwards.
I'd be happy. That'd be fun.
Yeah,
honestly,
you get a point.
As long as we don't lose.
Yes. So Charleston played the Rowdies this weekend, and they beat the Rowdies. But the fans have this fantastic relationship that if whoever side loses, the fan base has to buy drinks for the opposing fan base for the next match, which is kind of cool. So when the Rowdies go to Charleston, they're going to have to buy drinks for Charleston fans. Not the whole fans, but you get the core fan base. They're going to have to bring the drinks before the game for them, which is kind of cool.
That's awesome. You love to see that kind of camaraderie there.
Yeah, grassroots kind of stuff, right?
Yeah, it's always fun to kind of have your kind of rivals and your hated teams and whatnot. But at the end of the day, I think we're all soccer fans here, right? After that 90 minutes, the same thing like we were talking about in CONMEBOL qualifying.
Yeah.
After they're done killing each other,
Yes.
they're all
Yes.
giving each other hugs and high
Yes.
fives, and
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, sports is reality TV, and if you can go there and pour your heart out, which you're supposed to do, and then after, the bigger picture is camaraderie and human beings just being with other human beings.
absolutely. And so I think we could definitely go off on tangents forever. With no Matt here, I think we'll keep this one nice and short and sweet here. Thank you so much, Ryan, for joining us here. For the match here on the weekend, it is on ESPN Plus. It's on Nesson. Defiance 1636 will be in attendance at the Guild in Pawtucket if you want to head down. But Ryan, thank you so much for joining us. Anything you want to plug here? Tell the fans where they can find you. Any last words here?
I'm actually doing CONCACAF, a lot of CONCACAF these days. So I'll be doing qualifiers, and then I'll be doing 3 Gold Cup games at the end of June, 2 second round and 1 quarterfinal. And I will be working with FIFA for the World Club competition.
The Club World Cup?
But get this though, very, very unique. So I'm doing audio descriptive commentary, which is radio commentary on steroids. So I'm actually commentating in the match, and people who are blind, who are or visually impaired, who are at the stadium, my commentary will have them know exactly where the ball is for 90 minutes. So it's completely different. It's something I have worked on in the last couple of months. I was approved. Looking forward to working that tournament. So that is a journey I'm about to embark on, and I'm so excited to be able to serve people who are visually impaired.
That is really cool. I had no idea that existed. I look forward to. I'm gonna kind of see if I can check that out once we get closer to those games.
Just take off your glasses, Jason, walk inside there, act like you're blind, and it'll give you an earpiece, and you can hear me commentate the match.
Awesome. Sounds like a plan. But thank you so much, Ryan, for joining us here today at Raising Anchor. Always a blast talking to you. And hey, guys, make sure to check out our friends over at the Blazing Musket for all of your New England soccer coverage, including RFC, and that's at theblazingmusket.com. You can follow us on Twitter, Threads, TikTok, and Blue Sky at RFC Podcast. We have an Instagram at Raising Anchor, and we have a website, raisinganchorpodcast.com. Anchor's up, guys. No fancy intros out here. I don't know how to work that without Matt. Bye, everyone. Good night.
Good night.